Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Project Ozone Reloaded Titan Mode. You're watching episode 35, and today's episode is going to be a lot of show and tell on what has transpired because I've actually gotten a huge amount done between episodes in various ways, and I want to go ahead and talk about it. I also want to talk a little bit about stuff that's going on in the Simple Achievements book. There is some stuff that is sort of being worked on, and I think you'll find it very interesting because it may be surprising how much progress has been made. The reality is that once you get going with Project E, the ability to convert materials really makes a huge difference on what you can achieve. So before I get into that, though, I do want to do a couple of quests that are going to be kind of helpful going forward and that need to get going. And the first one of these is in the Avaricia chapter, or chapter Mu, and it is making a neutron compressor. This creates singularities. It also creates an item that is needed for making the transmutation tablet in Project E, but it's a pretty, well, it's not one of the more difficult recipes in the Dire crafting table, but it does involve a bunch of neutronium ingots and a block of neutronium ingots, which is made about as you would expect from 9 ingots of neutronium. Most of this other stuff, just blocks of iron, lots of diamonds and nether stars involved in parts of it, but not really on a vast scale like some of the recipes here. But we do need one of these. Let me go ahead and pull this out of here, which will complete the quest, and I will demonstrate it as soon as we go through and look at what exciting rewards we got. Okay, the reward bag for it is epic, and we got a beacon. Okay, well, I've certainly seen worse than a beacon. At least a beacon, well, a beacon doesn't have any EMC in this version. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so what do you use a neutronium compressor for? Well, if we put this down, I'll just put it down over here, it is used in ridiculously expensive crafting. Basically, you use it to make singularities. So this iron singularity you make from block of iron. So you convert block of iron into iron singularity, except that it's not one of them. This number down below tells you how many of them are involved in the recipe. So actually, you have to feed this machine 49,626 blocks of iron, and it will create one iron singularity. So it's a little expensive. We can actually see that the next quest here in the chain is in fact to create an iron singularity. So let's get that started, because I actually can do that. It's ridiculously expensive. I said it was a little a minute ago. That's not accurate. It's ridiculously expensive, but it is achievable. Let's go ahead and get a conduit here from Ender.io. Just a regular item conduit. And because I'm going to have to be shoving a lot of stuff through this machine, I really kind of want to upgrade this so that it will move items faster. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right here, and we're going to be inserting into this machine. Now, I have already counted out the appropriate number of blocks of iron and put them right here in a couple of caches. One of them contains 40,000, the other one contains 9,626. So let's take these and gather them up, and I'll bring them over here, and I'll just put one here and one here, and we will set it to extract and put the upgrades in, and we'll do the same over here. And so this is now it has processed nearly 2,000 blocks of iron now. So this is actually going to be pretty quick, pulling in those with the maximum Ender IO upgrades out of two caches at once. So it'll slow down a little bit when this one empties, because then it's only going to be going half as fast. It's going to take a while to empty 40,000 of those. So we don't really need to just sort of stare at this as it goes on. But once that is done, I'll finish this quest, and then I'll have to move on to the gold singularity. And I have to move on to the nether quartz singularity, and there's a whole long string of here. Because they are all the same except for the quantities and the material, I will do all these behind the scenes rather than on camera. That's just how it's going to be. A couple of them are already done because of quest rewards I got. I want to say diamond I have, and I think I have emerald, which is actually nice because it's a couple of the more expensive ones. Because we have EMC available, we can actually make blocks of iron on a massive scale. I haven't needed to. Iron is ridiculously abundant. I don't think I'll have to for the redstone one either. For gold, which is the next one in line, though, I only have 15,000 blocks of gold. So I will have to convert something else into gold to get close to 50,000 blocks of gold to feed into that machine. Okay, so what's the other quest I want to do today? The other one is that I'm finding that I'm doing an increasing amount of construction, and it really just sort of happened between episodes, but I'm doing an increasing amount of construction in other dimensions, and I don't want to have to keep running back and forth between dimensions in order to access items. And so in the Ada chapter, there is a quest here for the wireless crafting terminal, which I believe can actually access AE items even across dimensions, just pretty much wherever. I'm not 100% sure on that. We'll craft it and we'll see. We do need to do the quest eventually anyway, but I believe it is a huge upgrade to the normal wireless terminal from Applied Energistics. So in order to make this, I'm actually going to need a singularity, and I've already made one. To make a singularity, you use the matter condenser from Applied Energistics, and what you need to do is you need to put a pretty good size storage component in it. The 64K is the biggest one it will take. And then this button over here that currently says ME condenser, to begin with it just says destroy items. You want to click that twice until it says ME condenser. And condense into singularities. So we want to condense things into singularities. We have to give it 256,000 items to make a singularity. That's quite a bit, 250,000. However, it does accept cobblestone for that purpose, and you can use other things like here's coarse dirt that has no EMC value, and some of this carved stone from the ether. One of the things I'm going to have to do for the achievement is to completely carve out an ether dungeon, and I will have ridiculous amounts of this stuff that has no EMC and no use. And so I'll just ship it off to something like this to make something maybe a little more useful out of it. Right now, incidentally, I'm doing something very similar with an Energy Condenser Mark II. I'm actually condensing junk into more Energy Condenser Mark IIs, largely because the Energy Condenser Mark II has a huge EMC value, so that makes it a very compact way to store a lot of EMC. You could also use diamonds, but actually diamonds are probably not compact enough. You could use blocks of red matter, maybe, if you want to. Something like that. Right now, if we look at the various EMC stacks, I have basically nether stars as the highest value EMC stack. I've got about 42,000 of them. Diamonds, I have 5,700, almost 5,800 diamond blocks. That's the second highest value. And then the third highest value is energy condensers, because I've got 28 of them here. It's very convenient for just packing up a lot of EMC. It contains far more than, say, nether stars. On the other hand, if we look at the size of the stacks, this one has a third of a billion. This one has less than half a billion. And this one actually gives an overflow if you try to evaluate how much EMC is in that stack of nether stars. Okay, so we did need the singularity, and I got distracted there, but I do have my singularity in here. Maybe I should just try to set it up this way and wireless crafting terminal. Okay, so I only have the items on the bottom available in inventory. What else do I need? Fluix crystals, Fluix pearls. Those are doable. I think I have recipes for both of those things. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and... I know I'm going to need several more of them. I'll just make 10 Fluix pearls. And then, having done that, I'll go ahead and make 20 pure Fluix crystals. And while that's crafting, let's see what else is going on here. I need an ME wireless access point. Oh boy. Maybe I should set up some of these in this system. I don't know that I'm going to need more of these, but I'm going to need a wireless receiver. And the ingredient that's missing there is quartz fiber. So I'll pop that in there. I'll pull one out. Then I'm going to need calculation processor and ME glass cable. I should have those. So we'll go ahead and pull one of those out too. So how are we coming along on this one? It looks like I just need a crafting terminal, and I know I don't have one of those in stock. So let me put these in here so that I can use them in the future. Then I'll come back over here and we'll see if we got all the materials for this. We do. So let me go ahead and make the wireless crafting terminal. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is actually the wireless access point that I just made. Then there's an infinity booster card. This is the card that upgrades this thing to where I can access it just about anywhere. And you get this from killing various boss mobs. I've never tried this terminal. Let's see what happens if I just... It's full of energy. You don't just right-click it. Okay. I'll have to figure that out sometime. Magnet card. Magnet card is blocks of iron, redstone, lapis, ME annihilation plane. That's the only one of these components that I don't have set up in the system. Let's go ahead and drill down to that and set that up. Actually, probably don't set it up, just make one. I'm not going to be making a whole lot of stuff with ME annihilation plane. So we've got the rest of that. We'll go ahead and pull a magnet card out. Then ME security terminal. ME chest and 16K storage component are the pieces I'm likely to be missing. I don't seem to have the chest at all. The storage component can be crafted. So going back to this ME chest. What was that item called again? ME security terminal. Alright, so I'm missing some glass cables and that chest. And on the chest I'm missing terminal and glass cables. So let's make a few cables and terminal, just the basic one. So we got that. And on this one, we now have everything for that one. Alright. So that will finish everything on this quest. Claim the reward. And put the wrong item there. Creative tool modifier. Okay. That, I'll have to research that. Just like I'll actually, I guess, have to research the wireless crafting terminal. There's probably just a hotkey that pulls it up. I don't know what it might be, though. And it probably conflicts with something if that is the case anyway. Alright, so let's go on the base tour and see what is new, because it's actually far more than you might imagine from the amount of time that appears to have elapsed between this video and the previous one. I say appears because, in fact, I guess I've never really discussed it in any great detail. I'm actually a student studying mathematics, and non-traditional. If you guess that I'm older than the average college student, you would be correct. But I've had a little bit of an exam crunch and some stuff like that, and so I've done some playing the game as I had sort of free recreational time, but I haven't really taken the time to record and edit a bunch of videos in this particular series during this sort of time frame. So there's actually been a lot of gameplay and a lot of elapsed time here. So if we go, let's just start all the way at the bottom and see if there's anything new. There's nothing new here. I will mention with the beetles over there that I do find that the beetles are a pretty good EMC source because they drop those carapaces, and the carapaces have a pretty high EMC value for a mob drop. For a common one anyway. Nothing new on fluid processing. On Jailhouse, I am currently, I found that I wanted gelid cryotheum faster than cows were producing it. So I've actually set up an energy condenser MK2 here, and I'm feeding a magma crucible with it. So on this level, this is ore processing. I don't know that I've really discussed it or not. I've been gradually adding machines down here to get the processing to go at speed. What's actually happening with ore processing is that I can run a quarry for quite a while. It looks like I'm kind of full on copper at the moment, that's for sure. Are we actually running the furnaces, or did they clog up with something? Looks like they clogged up with something. Let's see here. Copper is here, but it can't ship it out. Well, it's not smelting it for some reason. Why would it not be smelting? It's got lots of power. Oh, it's out of sand. That's interesting. Wonder how that happened. Let's go up here and take a look at that. Kind of going and interrupting the tour here, but it's apparent the system is apparently out of sand. And I have no idea how that happened. We got cobble coming through here. We got gravel going into there. It's getting crushed. And what I suppose I could do, maybe, is tell it to stop processing sand here. I may need to add more crushers specifically to make sand. Can't do it right now. Let's go back down and take a look at that again. What I was about to say on the ore processing is that you can run one of those quarries at maximum speed for a while, and it just buffers up items in all of these storage drawers, which you'll notice actually do have emerald upgrades so that it can accommodate that. But it does eventually fall behind, and I have to stop and do something with all of the materials. and that is a little bit of a thing, I guess. I can't just run it full time. I do have to stop it periodically. I will show you the quarry area that I have been quarrying. Okay, here there's really absolutely nothing new on this level, but the level above it actually does have something new and kind of interesting. I did a change on the way that I was doing my Magneticraft. Now, before I had one kind of small and really pretty ugly looking because of the way that I laid it out chamber. What I have now is two um, pressure chambers. One of them is used for crafting, and I have gone ahead and hooked it up to the AE system here, and I've automated the crafting that it can do. The other one is for storage, meaning air storage. What actually happens here is I've got two liquid compressors. They're being fueled by kerosene, which I have tons of at this point, and they don't run full time. They run until the pressure in this tube reaches 4.5 bars. At that point, this gauge right here will send a redstone signal down this cable, and it will go into this programmable RedNet controller, which processes it into a signal that gets output to these liquid compressors. It actually judges based on the strength of the incoming signal. This is always sending a signal. It just has its strength varies. That turns these machines off, so that what actually happens is it pumps until this pressure chamber up here is full and then stops. Now, this pressure chamber where it's actually doing crafting is held at 3 atmospheres, which is plenty for doing any of the crafting that I've needed to do so far. This one up here is actually held at 4.5 so that it will hold more air and has a whole bunch of volume upgrades in it. So I'm actually able to store a large amount of air in here. Then, as it's needed for crafting, it comes down in here. There are various pressure regulation mechanisms here using what these things are called. What are they called? Regulator tubes. In order to only let gas pass at certain pressures. So even though this actually is continuously connected up here, it maintains a lower pressure, and once it's full at that lower pressure, it doesn't continue to fill. I do have a lever here next to this one that will allow me to completely cut off the flow of air at this point. There's a similar arrangement here next to this plastic mixer. I can completely turn off the flow of air there, and in fact right now it is off. So that's kind of an interesting little aside on what's going on over here. Nothing new there, and I don't think there's anything new on platforms above, except on the ring where I have constructed this gateway. Now, when I killed the Antlion Overlord, one of the quest rewards for that was a thing called the Aromacraft mining tool or something like that. That lets you build this gate. Now, you only get 20 uses out of it, and you need 10 blocks to build the gate. So you're going to use half of it up just building this gate once. So don't actually think you're going to make a whole bunch of extra blocks, because as far as I know, in this mod pack, you cannot ever get another one of those. You have the one you got from that quest, and that's that. Maybe somebody knows better and would like to comment, and I would certainly welcome hearing that comment if that's true. But as far as I know, at this point, you get to craft 2 of these gates at most, and really I think it's just one. You could probably mine some blocks on the other side of this gate to stretch that a little bit. There's not really much point. One gate is sufficient. Let's go over to this dimension and see what's going on over there. Because I have done something over here. It is not mining. It's a mining age, but it's also a peaceful age that is perpetually sunlit. So that's kind of a nice thing to have. Not just for mining, but for a few other purposes. And I probably will be building a substantial base over here eventually where I do a lot of things. But the only thing I've done so far is you can see that I moved the windmill over here. And there are these black blotches on the ground. Well, these are tar from Magneticraft. And I set up pump jacks on all of them. and they're powered using the windmill, and they've actually run to completion. There are bedrockium drums here holding oil, and actually all of these machines have completely run to completion at this point. They've pumped up all the oil that's underground. Now, tar is related to the underground oil in Magneticraft. The way that oil spawns in Magneticraft is different from Buildcraft. In Magneticraft, if you were to dig down far enough here, what you would find is a sphere of a material that you cannot recover even with Silk Touch, that is an ore-bearing rock or an oil-bearing rock. And you use this pump jack to extract all the oil. So eventually it becomes the oil-bearing rock, and it says depleted on it. I don't know the exact name of the material. You can look it up in Magneticraft. It's fairly obvious. There is a correlation between these patches of asphalt or tar on the surface and there being oil underground. But it's not exact. There is a machine that you can use. Do I have it on me? Yes, the oil prospector that you can use to see if there's oil underground. So if I click it here, it says oil not found. And if I click it around in all these various places, it says oil not found. If I come over here and click it on this tar patch, it says found drained oil source at 16, meaning I've already taken and pulled all the oil out of it. It would just say found oil source at 16 if there was still oil under there. And it turns out for each one of these, that each one of these patches does correspond exactly to an oil resource below the ground. That isn't necessarily always the case in my experience. I've done this before where you would have a patch and maybe it didn't have any oil under it, but somewhere nearby you might find the oil resource if you probed for it enough. So do keep that in mind. It's not necessarily perfect. It may be a lot closer to perfect on this completely flat terrain. That's certainly a possibility. But that's I've gotten all this oil here. I did want to get it before I did any sort of quarrying here, because if you quarry it up, you destroy the oil, because you cannot recover the blocks in the normal way. It's not like Buildcraft oil in that regard. One thing that is worth mentioning about it maybe is if we go to Journey Map, what we're going to see is that each one of these asphalt patches is exactly centered within a chunk. I'm not sure if that's coincidental or not, but I suspect it's not. So you may find that your oil is distributed in that particular way. Just go down to the center of the chunk. Okay, so there's one other thing I want to do here. All of this oil is depleted at this point, so I'm going to take and recover it all in a second here and take it back to the overworld. But before I do that, there is something I want to do here. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully I can do it without digging everything up. I'm going to go ahead and set up something here, which is I'm going to set up a transformer on this to convert from low to medium voltage, and it looks like it goes the other way around. Okay, so low voltage just went in there, and medium voltage will come out here. So put medium voltage there, and I'm going to put this kinetic generator on here. And it looks like I got that backwards too. Okay, so we've connected up a kinetic generator, and what the kinetic generator does is it generates RF from Magneticraft electricity. Now I've got this windmill up here that's generating electricity, and I'm not doing anything with it. Well, this will allow me to convert it all into RF, and I'll just fill this resonant energy cell with it. The reason for doing that is because there is I don't need the energy from this. I just don't. You will see, you will understand that very well by the end of this episode, but there is an achievement in the simple achievement books to completely fill a resonant energy cell using Magneticraft. So I'm doing it. So let me go and gather up all these oil barrels, and I will meet you back in the overworld. Okay, I'm back and I've put away a few things, including all that oil, which I'm starting to drain into tanks. And I came here and I noticed that we've made our iron singularity now. So let me pull that out and I'll just mark that quest as done. So, a legendary reward bag with another beacon. Okay, I don't know what the story is with beacons. I suppose I will need. Well, I'll definitely need at least one for the Gaia Guardian fight. I don't normally use them very much, but kind of nice to have, I guess. Alright, so let's look at the next destination on the stop, on the tourism. What is that? On the itinerary. And that is in the deep dark. Let's take a look in the deep dark at what's been going on with the quarry. At the moment, it's powered down because I needed to catch up on supplies, and apparently I'm going to have to get some more sand before I can actually get all the processing done. But we have a vast hole out here now. And it's a little foggy here to look at. It is interesting how much the Ender Quarry actually it kind of messes up. Here's a spot where it just completely missed mining out blocks. And of course, if you look on the mini map, you can see that down below there's tons of lava and water everywhere, even though it's using the Ender Quarry pump upgrade and it has never been jammed. It just hasn't. It has never been jammed. I don't think it has recovered a single bucket of water though, and while it's recovered quite a bit of lava, it's obviously already also left quite a bit behind. But got a big hole here. It does go all the way down to bedrock, way, way down here. And so that's sort of what's going on with the quarry. I've been getting a lot of resources out of it. I've been processing them all. At this point, I would say that the processing is set up for almost all of the ores that will be coming through. I don't know what else might be coming through. From the mining age, I know there's like a sticky ore that gives slime balls. Oh boy. Don't want that guy. See if we can just get him to fall off into the void here. No. So I guess we'll do this that way. Alright. Yeah, that guy would have blown up my ender quarry and a bunch of stuff, so that would have been bad. Heading back. The next stop is actually the portal to the last millennium here. Let's go to the last millennium, which I think we might call the blue dimension because everything is done sort of in shades of blue or greenish blue or whatever. And we can see that I've got a nice new office building here. Except, of course, it's not an office building. This is an attempt at the next... It's actually the first quest in the Simple Achievements book, or the first achievement in it, which is to build a maximum size big reactor filled with diamond blocks and gelid cryotheum. And I am currently filling with gelid cryotheum because I've placed all of my fuel rods and all of my diamond blocks. This is not really what I would consider a great arrangement for generating as much power as you can in the space available. But of course, since it has so much space, not necessarily such a huge deal. It will still generate a vast amount of power. My main concern on setting up a layout like the one that I've got right now was actually being able to go ahead and fill it with gelid cryotheum without having to go and move around a floodgate or manually bail buckets or anything of that nature. On a structure this size, it just is kind of a problem to do this sort of thing. So The way it's set up actually is 1 out of every 4 columns in the reactor is a fuel rod, and 1 out of every 16 columns is diamond blocks in order to meet the criterion specified in the book. The book actually just says to fill it with gelid cryothium and diamond blocks. I'm presuming that the intent was definitely to allow for fuel rods, because otherwise it would be pointless to build the reactor. It does not actually stipulate a particular ratio of them or a particular number of them. So presumably you could put 1 diamond block in here and meet that criterion. I'm not being quite that cheapskate, but I'm not putting too many of them in, mostly because I want to make sure that the gelid cryothium still flows around. The actual price of the diamond blocks is not that awful on the scale of things, so I could have put more in. I just thought it would be more convenient to fill it the other way. And it's maybe close to 2/3 full now. Cows are just not producing this fast enough. I did show you earlier where I set up the machine that was doing it. So that's sort of what's going on this episode. That is pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go with that. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or share. And until next time, thank you for watching, and I will see you then.